Hi, I'm Carlene, and I did something truly awful. Well, have you ever hurt someone badly without knowing or realizing it? Anyway, I hope you won't judge me. My story began when my parents got divorced a few years ago. Shortly after, my mom got remarried, and now I live with her and my stepfather. As for my dad, our relationship was pretty complicated. The thing is, he wasn't much of a role model. He could barely manage a sentence, and on top of that, he chose to work at the most embarrassing job, a garbage man at my school. He cleaned and picked up garbage around school, and of course, I did my best to avoid him. Not many people knew him as my father, and I wanted to keep it that way. Occasionally, I heard some kids joking about my dad, making fun of the way he talks, the way his hands curl because of his arthritis, and the fact that he's just a miserable garbage man. It was so humiliating. And to make things worse, he'd always look for me at school. It was hard to escape him, or my classmates' mockery. One day I was at the schoolyard with my friends when suddenly I saw my father approaching me with excitement. It was too late to escape him, and he stood there talking to me while my friends just stared silently. Hey, Carlene, would you like to come have dinner at my place tonight? I looked at my friends. They were waiting for my answer, and without thinking, I said thanks, but no, and I kept walking. At that point, my friends were able to put two and two together, and they figured out he was my father. And soon enough, the whole school knew. While they said nothing in front of me, I knew they talked about it behind my back. I was so mad at my father, and I wasn't going to allow him to destroy my social life. The next day after school, I was ready to take even more of my anger out on my dad. I saw him as I was entering school. My dad held up a hand and waved. Carlene, how are you today, baby girl? But I just looked at him and kept walking. I told my friends how much of a loser he was and that I couldn't stand him. And when I heard my classmates whispering about what a freak he was, I agreed with them. Days after, my dad came up to me yet again at school and offered me a chocolate bar and said, "Take this, Carlene, I got you something sweet." He was so stupid. Couldn't he see I didn't want anything to do with him? Everyone around me had gone quiet, waiting for my response. I stepped closer to him and said, "Get the hint, old man. You are not wanted here." "What are you talking about?" he stuttered. "Just leave me alone." My father looked at me. I saw the sadness and humiliation in his face. My friends were still silent, watching as he walked away. Then I turned and walked away. None of the people in my group said anything. Then one girl said, "I can't believe how awful you are," and started walking faster so she wouldn't have to be walking with me. Another boy said, "Your dad used to work with my dad at the factory, Carlene. My dad said your dad was a really hard worker." What? My dad hadn't worked at a factory. He had always just been a garbage man. But I was starting to get a sick feeling in my stomach. My friends weren't impressed with disrespectful attitude. They thought I was a bad person and looked at me with disgust. When I got home, I was surprised to see my father waiting at my mother's house. He looked unwell, and as soon as I came in, he told me that we needed to talk. I sat in the living room, and he started telling me how horrible my behavior has been lately. He called it unacceptable and that I should be ashamed of myself. It seemed like my dad was expecting me to apologize, but I wasn't going to. I told him that he was ruining my social life, and I wish he could just disappear. My dad seemed shocked to hear me say these words, but he did not respond. He even looked like he was holding back tears. With that, he left, and I stayed in the living room by myself. Shortly after, my mom came and asked me what was wrong. I snapped at her. "I just hate Dad working as a garbage man at my school. It's so embarrassing. Why is he such a freak? Everyone makes fun of him. He was too stupid to get a real job, and that's why we were poor for so long." "Carlene," my mom stopped me. "There are some things you don't realize about your father." I felt like I was going to cry. I didn't want to hear any more crap about how my father was some kind of great person. "Things weren't always like this for your father. He was always a hard worker who kept a great job for years at the factory as a co-manager. But things stopped being that great for him after he got arthritis, and he couldn't keep his job. In fact, no one wanted to hire him anymore until he found that job at your school. He was delighted to work there because it was going to keep him close to you." The sick feeling in my stomach got worse. Carlene, you obviously don't understand how much your father loves you. He used to work all day, and despite all of his problems, he never complained. Every time he came home, the first thing he wanted to do was hold you, no matter how tired he was. I blinked back tears. Then why did you divorce him? I demanded. People grow and change and go their separate ways. I wouldn't trade my time with your father for the world. I spent all night thinking about how badly I'd screwed up, imagining how my father must have been feeling at that moment. The next day, I told my friends I would like to stay alone, and I headed to the schoolyard to search for him. However, I couldn't find him anywhere, which was pretty odd. When I went to ask about him, I was told that he found another job at a different school. It was heartbreaking to know that my words hurt my father that deeply. I felt so bad that I couldn't actually hold back my tears, and I went to the school's bathroom to cry. Later that day, I went looking for my dad at his new job. I waited at the school's gate for hours until I saw him coming out. When he saw me, he looked up briefly, then looked down. I took a deep, shaky breath and walked up to him. I didn't know how to begin. I'm so sorry for the things I've been saying. I know I've been such a terrible person, and you've never done anything but try to take care of me. I couldn't even look him in the eye. So I just want to say I won't do it anymore. He looked at me. You think that makes it okay? The lump in my throat grew. No, I understand if you can't ever forgive me, but I'm sorry. He nodded a little. You're still young, Carlene, and you have a lot to learn. I can't stay mad at you. You're my little girl. Since then, I've been trying to show him I'm serious with my actions. I stick up for him when other people joke about him. I say hi to him whenever he's around. I don't know if I'll ever have a good relationship with my father, but I am trying. And that's how I learned that worrying about other people's opinions can sometimes hurt the ones you